This is our last installment, wrapping up our conversation, the part deux, if we were going to have one to this movie, of talking about where we've been, where we're going, some closing thoughts about the new normal. So we're excited about those things, and at the same time a little bit apprehensive of what the future holds. You all will remember that we started back in the middle of April with this remote work transformation model. And, at that moment in the middle of April, we were really trying to get our feet underneath of us and get back to some basic functionality. What we were doing in our businesses, a couple weeks earlier, just by muscle memory, was now taking a lot of extra work to get there. We were struggling to deliver essential responsibilities for ourselves, for our businesses, for the folks that work with us, and for our clients and customers. We were adapting processes, and we will go on to adapt processes and transform how we work and operate. And that's the last two of those, 3 and 4, really going to be where we talk today. And we're going to pick up at the end of May, or the middle of May, and kind of go through the last few weeks here as we talk about it. Before we do that, I want to since I put together the slideshow today, I thought I'd take a personal privilege to talk about another book. We were just talking about a book that several have read, about The Black Swan by Nicholas Taleb. I've got it on my bookshelf back here. That's why I'm looking over my shoulder. Another book that I've been reading during this time is Leaders Make the Future by Bob Johansen. And this is a book about 10 new skills that we need for an uncertain world. And in the third chapter, he really talks about what he calls dilemma flipping, how to take a persistent issue, because different than problems, dilemmas can't be solved. We just have to learn to live with them. It may be like a chronic disease or a chronic situation in our lives that we've had to choose and learn how to adapt to. Well, we have these dilemmas. We'll talk a little bit about how cybersecurity is one of those dilemmas that we live with. There's no solution to cybersecurity. It's just one of the dilemmas. But how we take these dilemmas that cannot be solved, and we can turn them into advantages. We can turn them into opportunities. I've threatened a couple times the phrase, if life gives you dilemmas, you make lemonade, as we talk about it. But really the key here that Bob Johansen brings out is the fact, and I think this is where we've been living, is that when we're dealing with dilemmas, as leaders, we need to learn how to thrive in a space of judging too soon and deciding too late. I think we've all been in that situation where we've gotten information we thought made sense, was good, seemed to be scientifically backed, only to have that changed, a few hours, days, weeks, a week later. And so we have to, kind of live in this space of uncertainty and work with it. So as we talk about this, I'll probably pull on this dilemma thread a little bit more than we have in past presentations, because I really think that what we're trying to do here is work with dilemmas. Now, I think one of the things that I look at, sorry, I flipped through there the wrong way, is this healthy at work roadmap. And one of the things that I've written about before is how driving is so much about what we do at work and what we're doing. So I love the road metaphor. Sometimes we find ourselves in traffic. Sometimes we find ourselves encountering an accident that we didn't have control over. Sometimes people are doing road construction and it holds us up. Sometimes there are weather events that we have to deal with when we travel. Sometimes there are moments when we can accelerate through curves. Or we have to really find out where we can get more fuel to do it. So as we go through this roadmap and we look at what we're doing, we have to confirm the requirements and assess the current state and identify the gaps. That's probably where we uncover some of the dilemmas, and analyze and select recommendations, create and execute action plans, and then transition everything into operations. And we're going to talk through how we've done this, and I think there's a lot more to do for us as we go forward. One of the first presentations for the first presentation for this section is a presentation that I got to do with Sue Canese the Solarity group here. And on May 21st, we welcomed the Bluegrass PMI group, the Project Managers International group, the local group in, and we talked about how to adapt Microsoft Teams. That was a tool for great communication. Many of us were kind of thrust into using it, and turn it into a project management information system. And so we spent some time really talking about how you could refit some of the tools that are out there. We started off thinking about a lesson that's been learned, though, over and over, personally by me, but I know many others resonate with this. You cannot solve business problems with technology. Technology will only make problems within the business processes worse. So as we look at our business processes and we're working with the technology and everything, it's only going to exacerbate our weaknesses. And so we have to be careful as we're doing this and we transform what's going on there. We also have, we talked about, what would be involved in doing that. And we really kind of keyed in on what's down in the right-hand corner there of curating knowledge. This is kind of a new skill that as project managers and folks that are responsible for product delivery, we need to curate our information so we can easily find it, so that we can work in that space. And there has to be ownership of that. That's a new level and a new responsibility within many businesses today. We talked about many different sides of it, the importance of having a flow, what communication looks like, offered some guidelines, hints, and challenges. And we talked about the strength and maybe the limitation of Microsoft Teams in some ways, because we're pressing it into service in ways that the developers never even thought about. We're using it there. So that's one of the conversations that we had in May as we talked about this. And I'd urge you all, as things come up, there are some questions. You can put them in the chat area, you can put them in our questions area, and we'll try to respond to that. I'm sorry, I caught Bobby Newman was making a comment agreeing with technology not being able to solve problems, but only magnifying them. So, please put them out there. We can stop along the way, but we're going to have a good time like we had last time for your reflections on this, what we've covered, and some questions and answers, right? The next presentation that we had, we welcomed Tim Niddle back with us. And he really talked through what it meant to reopen tourism and the distillery, particularly some of the stresses that distilleries were feeling, because that's such a part of our economy during the summer. So many other businesses are built around serving the people that come through the area that are here to tour our distilleries and our horse farms and the other establishments that we have here. So we really dove down, though, into the dilemma that was being faced, that we were facing of reopening. And it was a tangled mess. I mean, I think that I love this picture because it really kind of talks about all the different strands that have to be taken care of and how deeply intertwined, to use a technical term, they are as we go forward. And Tim really took us to a place where we could talk about what it meant to be, building on healthy at work, which we've been talking about, how to be healthy in service. We'd started to get a few people back into our businesses, and how we could be healthy with our guests and for our guests as we do everything as we opened up. And this was a big deal, and it still is a big deal because we're still trying to go through this. I was actually with Tim last week. We did a distillery tour, and it was really fascinating to see how they had adapted. We were down at Wilderness Trail. If you don't know about Wilderness Trail down in Danville, I urge you guys to go down. They are the science guys of bourbon, but they really have worked hard to get all of this in line, and we wanted to see how they'd handled it. One of the things that they did share with us and that we talked about during the presentation is really this idea that the office and administration that's going on in your business have their full-time responsibilities. product and manufacturing or product delivery really have their full-time jobs. They're subscribed for 40 hours a week. In the case, with the distilleries, they've got a whole other part of their business where they're welcoming visitors in. And as it turns out, all of them had 40-hour-a-week jobs. So who's going to help with the effort to really get this done? And we talked about the need to identify an overall person that would be responsible for overseeing the many projects, maybe not leading all of the specific projects, but being able to kind of guide that effort and to find places where they could reuse information and try to move the effort along outside of the normal areas in your business that are working. And I think that that's still important for us as we move into this, especially as counts begin to go up. And how are we going to adapt if we have to limit again, or if we have in the fall some kind of another spike that we have to deal with? So who in the organization can handle that, and how do we carve out time for that position to really have eyes while everybody else is doing their regular jobs? The key takeaways that we talked about with Tim was having the project manager understanding the repeatable work and kind of building so we weren't remaking the wheel every time we had to do stuff, and then being able to delegate and track action plans and having some really good thoughts as we go through here, and building on what we know. So I hope that that's good. I think that this is a space that we're going to be in, the dilemma of opening back up and being healthy for ourselves, for our business, and for those that we are serving in the community. That brought us to a conversation with Jim and Bob and John from the Tyrone Clearview Group, where we talked about what it meant to have our profitability under a lot of stress. And there's one thing to try to increase our profitability or pivot our profitability and go into different lines of work, but there's also the idea of how do we manage the expenses that we have? How do we handle our expenses when revenue has been suppressed at the level that it has been? So we spent some time talking with them, and a lot of times, again, just like we were talking about in the idea of opening back up and needing somebody to watch that, a lot of times we don't have the capacity to do that in this moment. And so they were talking about the simple process of working with them, a process that would go beyond simply having to pay out of pocket for it, because they don't get paid unless you save money. And it may be that we choose to do this internally. It may be necessary for us to partner with folks like this that do good work. They're a part of our community, though, and they're working in this space. And we thought that it was important to bring that to you all, because cost savings at this moment in time and understanding where we needed to be is very important. If we can't control our expenditures, then we may go out of business before we can sell more product. Then 2 weeks ago, I was very happy to welcome a couple of my good friends, Wes and Dawn, who I've worked with for several years, to talk about cybersecurity, because I think security in this moment is one of those other dilemmas as we've talked about, right? It's a dilemma, and it's changed because all of a sudden what was kind of we had our moats and we had our castle walls, and we had everything set up within our organization for those who were working on site. And then that all changed, and we had to make sure that we had security practices and behaviors, and we had good hygiene so that people, when they were working at home, could recognize what they needed to do to be secure. We talked about the layers and how they've changed. The endpoint security and human layer really went out to the front, right? It wasn't just about perimeter security anymore, like I was talking about, but it is this idea that we need to make sure that the machines that we're working on are dedicated to that use. We don't want to use the gaming PC that our kids have been using and have all kinds of great games that actually keep them out of our hair these days, and offer some immersive learning environments, but they're probably not the best for us to do work on. If possible, we talked about using corporate devices to do the corporate work that we needed to do. And we really talked about what role you could play, what role I can play in security at my company, and took this to a different level. You know, we talked about passwords and using password managers and MFA. You can read all of this. We actually went through the anatomy of a fish, and what that was about. We're not going to take time to do that again, but we got a lot of positive comments out of that. We got so many comments out of that, and I think Don's on here today, so I'm going to give Don a heads up that I'm going to ask him to maybe unmute here. But we've actually gone back to Wes and Don and asked them to write a couple of articles. I think they alluded to that when we were doing the possibility of that, but we've got the first one out there. It's Solarity articles. Don, do you want to say anything about the first article here and what the plans are for future articles?
Yeah, Bert. Hey, just wanted to touch base, let you know that we launched part 1 of 2 of a blog post that focuses on passwords and password managers. It's nice, it's short, it's succinct, it's written with a I'll say a cowboy flair, which I thought was a really good way of relaying the content, which can sometimes be dry. So, and then we're in the final edit stages on part 2 of 2. Hopefully launch that probably early next week, and push that up to the website as well.
Good. I know we got a lot of different comments on this. So if there's an area of security that you'd like to know a little bit more about, or risk management or something like that, please email us at info@solarity.com, and we will try to put together some good content for you and help continue that discussion. But we'll probably be doing that in the blog as we go forward. If we get enough, I guess we could do another session on those as we go forward. That's what we kind of covered in the last half of everything that we did. And I mean, I learned a lot. I'm so privileged to have worked with all of these people to put these presentations together. But it's time now for us to get your reflections and your Q&As. You know, for this, some of you may have answers. There may be some actions that we want to take away from this. So I'm going to be quiet for just a minute and maybe check in with Colt. Is there anything in the question and answers or the chat yet?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, anybody have any questions? Don, did you have anything else you wanted to reflect on?
Not at this time. I mean, really, if you read through the blog post, you'll see what you know. We're focusing our time and effort. You know, best bang for your buck, best bang for your being as God, what's the word I'm looking for? Being the best way to spend your time and make the biggest improvement on your security posture.
Mm-hmm. Good. I'm going to flip over and see whether there's anybody else I can call on. Any other questions or thoughts today as we're going? I know Carl had a lot last week. Well, good. Oh, we got one coming up here. Show them the book. Which one? The Black Swan book or the... I've got all kinds of books to show people. This is going to be a book report. Let's see if I can get it up here. Here's the Black Swan book. Let me see if I can find... I've actually got my copy off of the... this is the Leaders Make the Future book. I've got the cover off of it. One of the things that Bob Johansson does and the Institute for the Future is they use the inside of their book jackets to actually have the map. And let me see if I can pull that up here. Sorry, we're going to get in behind the scenes here a little bit maybe as we move everything around. This is the book jacket for the Leaders Make the Future. Maybe you can see it here. Nope, it's not picking up. Oh, there we go. Leaders Make the Future. But what they do is they actually use the inside. It's not coming through on my video, is it? No. I was wanting to show you, but on the anyways, on the inside of the book jacket, they actually have everything that they line out in each of the books, and so that's really exciting way for me to use a different way of thinking about using the inside of a book jacket. Okay. I just had it up on my little video that was in the corner there, Bobby. I will pull the books out. Maybe we'll send those out to the book recommendations here, some books to read as part of this call. When we get together, we can send out some books too. Make sure that everybody has it. Good. Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of great things that people have come up with. I'm excited about, having gone through this. I really look forward. I'm going to cruise on here to the next slide as we go through this. And if we've got more questions that come in, we'll let you know. But again, we're back at this Healthy at Work roadmap. And the reason I put this in at the end is, we're doing this together. This has been a discussion for us to really work on this. As you confirm the requirements to open back up and identify your current state and the gaps of what's out there, if you get into a situation where you're just kind of scratching your head or you can't get past one of these points, reach out. This is not something that you just have to tackle alone. We get to do this as a community. And we've traveled this road so far together. We're going to bring this portion of the conversation to a close, but please feel free to reach out and let's get our heads together and figure out how we can, tackle the particular situation that is, stymieing you in a moment. There are a lot of opportunities here, whether it's taking a tool and applying it like we did with teams, whether it's working with a specific way of reopening or find the capacity within your organization either to, look at managing all the work that needs to be done to open up, or even identifying expenses that could be controlled. We're working on this together, and I think we're better together as we work through all of this. I'm going to take our silence here in the questions. Am I missing anything, Cole, as we go on here?
No.
Okay. Good. We had a really good discussion last week. I thank you all for being part of this and kind of taking the journey with us as we look at all of this. I want to say a special thank you to the folks that did the presentations we talked about today, to Sue and to Tim and to Jim and John and Bob and Wes and Don. So many people that I've learned a lot from and that I look forward to working with in the future. I think that I may have benefited most from all of this, but we're still in this continuum, and we're focusing on our processes, our tool, and probably most importantly right now, our people. I've continued to do some listening and everything, and really, understanding why we're doing something and having the empathy to work with people as we're doing it, and to understand that everybody may be in a different place. That's important for us to remember. Thank you for joining us for this 11-week discussion on adjusting to the new normal. The good news is we're getting through this together. We're getting back to work. We're getting to a new normal and to being able to standardize what we do, and that's important. As we continue and as we publish the second security article, and we talk about different conversations that we're going to have, maybe with we've talked about doing some stuff for higher ed as they're contemplating things, because they've got a whole different ball of wax. Maybe we'll do something for K through 12 as well that they've got to deal with. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. Those are the channels that we really kind of keep updated. There may be a couple more. Cole is our guru on pushing all the social media stuff out. He's of that age. I just, I'm a visitor. I'm a tourist visa, so to some of the social media and everything. But we thank you for everything again. Any closing thoughts, Cole, as we wrap this? This was Cole's baby, right? This was his brainchild, and I can't say enough for him kind of stepping out in the company and just saying, this is what we need to do. We need to go forward. And then we had a couple of conversations, and he asked me whether I'd be part of it. Nancy and Bud blessed the use of this time because there is a fair investment in this. But this is Cole's brainchild. And I really appreciate him leading in this. I've learned a lot from him as he does all of this. But it's been good to work with so many people, both in different ways inside of Solarity. So,
thank you, Bert.
Yep. Good. Nancy's got a really good question. We're going to take a moment. We're going to take a page out of project management, and we're going to say, what are some lessons that you've learned or things that you could tell us about how to do this better? Right? What would be helpful for you, or what was helpful for you out of this? We got a couple more moments here. I understand if people have to go, but are there any lessons learned that people would like to either bring up in Q&A or in the chat, or going to do the silent 10 count here. Are there any lessons learned that you've had about your journey through all of this? How has your mind been changed, or how are you doing things differently? What lessons have you learned about yourself and your business and those that you're working with? I think everybody's probably eating lunch today. That's what I'm going to be doing in just a minute. Nancy, are you on mute? You want to say anything?
No, I think we can all learn from each other about this. Y'all have done some great information sharing and sort of helping people develop their strategies, but we don't have all the answers. So I just wanted to see if anybody has any aha moments about what they learned from these webinars, as well as their own experiences trying to get back to work for themselves or their organization. Because we can all learn by getting through this together to help alleviate any pain points going forward.
Byron, you've kind of talked about this in the chat, creating a sense of community. You want to unmute and tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. Yeah, sorry about the background noise.
That's fine.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, just with the whole pandemic going on since mid-March, my team's been working remotely since then, and then just with the whole George Floyd and all the others, the whole racial strife, it's just important to have a sense of community for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a lot going on, and having good virtual meetings and having consistent virtual meetings, no matter how good or bad you're feeling, it just creates a sense of community where people can just come together and talk and just discuss either work or things going on with their family or things going on in the news. It's just this new normal has impacted everybody in different ways. But if we're all coming together instead of falling apart, I think that's important. And as project managers, it's just even more important to set the mood, during the meetings and keep everybody engaged and positive and wanting to move forward. So I appreciate you, having these meetings, but just having that sense of community, even if the meeting is terrible, just having a place to talk and giving people a chance to just discuss things is huge.
Yeah, I agree. And having those, especially when we know they're coming up, we can get through a lot if we know we've got a chance to really meet with people and to just decompress for a moment. And so having those regular meetings and having that time together is so important. So thank you for that. That's a great reminder, and I'm glad that kind of came through. Anybody else? And we've got open mic night, right? So. Well, we're at 12:30. Don't want to hold anybody over. Thank you again. Again, if there's anything we can do, get a hold of us at info@solarity.com. All of the back to work information that we're putting together is at solarity.com. /back to work. So you can go out there and check on that. We will continue to update that with information. We've got the blogs that are coming out on a regular basis. Again, check, make sure you're tied into our social media so that you can get information about when we have new content out there and what's being offered. We're actually, one of the things that I think is going to be upcoming is a conversation about risk. And I think that I'll be working with Don and Wes on that some. So really excited. Another person in our organization kind of started that, Glenn. And so Glenn, we're gonna work with Glenn and build on everything and hopefully put that out there to talk more about risk. So again, thank you all for everything, and look forward to seeing you and working with you in the future. Be well, be safe, be kind to one another, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Bert.